Hello, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be having a look at some strong fleet builds, probably the strongest or the ultimate fleet build, at least for a good portion of the game until much later into the later game. For some of you who watched the Montu tournament, you would have seen some interesting builds from Liphius. Now, he has a very interesting build in terms of the use of missiles on cruisers, fast cruisers, against nearly any other ship type. It appears to be unbeatable at this stage until you get later in the game anyway. So this is the design that we saw used really effectively in Montu's tournament, and it's also was shown to me a couple of weeks ago by Universal. Very similar build, not quite as extreme as this, but very similar. We were talking about this previously, and we've seen some of the videos about I've done previously with kiting with different weapons and stuff. So it's a similar strategy. So this is the ship design using cruisers. We're talking sort of early-ish game, 30-40 years into the game. You should be able to get this level of technology. So you've got swarmer missiles, and then you've got tier 4 missiles. Now you should be able to get tier 4 missiles between year 30 to 40. You may not reach tier 4 depending on your tech rolls, but you need to keep in mind of this type of build, you don't need to build or research any other type of weapon technology. You can ignore all the others and focus solely on missiles and or perhaps torpedoes as well. I would include torpedoes in this build. And that means you get more technology to focus on: armor, shields, engines. The important part of this is you need the 3 afterburners. That's why you've got the 2 small slots for the extra auxiliary slot. You're also running artillery computer. You might have the second level by year 30-40. It's quite common to have the next level, and just a standard makeup here of the other slots. So the idea of this is that this fleet will remain out of range, keep firing missiles, and whittle down your enemy's fleet. And we saw this really well in Montu's tournament. You could tell that Liphius had really adapted well to the new combat rebalance, and some of the players he was fighting against, like Silas and R, were using some standard old meta builds, which he just annihilated them. He annihilated fleets which were twice his strength in fleet power, and it just blew them away because they were using a combination of kinetic weapons, plasmas, auto cannons, things like that, maybe some lasers in there, and they just did not have the range and speed to be able to compete with this type of fleet design. And they just got blown out of the ballpark basically in the end. But if you watch the video, in the end it took a combination of all the players basically gang banging Liphius because they couldn't beat him in the fleets one-on-one. And I think it was a bit of the Russian players grouped together and basically beat him down. But his fleet design was clearly the best in the game, and really adapted well to the new combat system. So just for initial test, just to show you how effective it is, we're keeping the fleet at 80 fleet capacity. That's about normal for a year 30-40. We've got a full fleet of PD destroyers. So we're running level 2, 3 PDs, 2 lasers, and standard mix, auxiliary fire control, picket computers. This is just to show you, it's not about the makeup of the weapons and anything. This is to show you how PD works against mass missiles. So this is probably about the most point defense you're going to be able to get in that early to mid game. You're not going to get much more than this. So let's test it and see how the point defense goes against mass missiles.
Hostile fleet assets engaged.
The other thing I just wanted to point out as well, for this to work properly, we put the leader on with give you the extra range. So where's my leaders? Yeah. So we've got the extra ship weapon range on this fleet to make it work effectively, so it gives you extra missile range. We've also got the policies, the war doctrine, rapid deployment, which gives you extra sublight speed and also extra ship weapon range. We can also need to turn on our edicts. So obviously don't need energy weapons. You got armor bonuses there, explosive weapon damage, kinetic weapon damage, exotic gas for shield boost, and exotic gas for sublight speed. So we want to turn on that, sublight speed, and we probably want explosive weapon damage, because that will be for the missiles. We turn that on. That did. You can see the fleet power increase, 17.6. So that works well with that. But to make it fair, I'm going to turn on all the edicts, so this fleet also gets the whatever bonuses it can. I'm just seeing which one works well with it. Armor will boost both fleets. Focusing crystals boosts that fleet. Shields will boost both. Ammunition has no effect, so we'll just turn that on. So they're the things you need to make this fleet really, really effective. So let's see how this goes. They're in missile range now. They're firing. See the point defenses going. See these ships are trying to keep out of weapon range. You can just see the fleet is getting whittled away. We are running out of space here at the edge of the map, but they are still trying to keep their distance for a lot of them. Lasers are firing now on some of the cruisers. And remember, this is level 2 point defense as well, so you'd probably still only have level 1 point defenses, most likely, if you're having any point defenses at all. In the tournament, we saw hardly any point defenses. Let's check the damage. So you can see it's swarm of missiles, quantum missiles there. They're just getting through the hull. Look at the damage to the armor. And of course, they go straight through the shields. You can see the UV lasers are just not doing anything because they just cannot get in the range. And that's going to be the same with your kinetic, your plasmas. They're just not going to be able to get into range. These ships are too fast, keeping out of range of the enemy fleet. Now they've got the situation, these guys are running, or they're chasing after these cruisers actually. If they haven't lost too many ships, and that's mainly due to the point defenses. So this battle is just to show mass point defenses is still not enough against all these missiles, and this is equal fleet strength, equal fleet naval capacity. You can just see they're just hunting them down now. Just speed it up now. This battle's over. Okay, so they lost, looks like only about 10 destroyers by the look of it in this test. Yeah, they only lost 10 destroyers, but we lost nothing. They barely scratched this fleet. And that's because of their speed and their long-range firepower. And that is with the most effective point defense we could put on at this point in the game. All right, let's do another test. We use a cruiser fleet with a standard mix of weapons, which we saw in the tournament. Okay, so for this fight, this is one of the builds we saw in the tournament. And these are some of the best players going around. I think it was either R or Silas had a fleet like this or similar, and they may have had level 2 weapons. I don't exactly recall, but it was a makeup like this: kinetic, plasma, and autocannons. A lot of people are using autocannons because it inflates your fleet power, gives you high DPS, but they're very short weapons. You can see their range. Unless you can close into really close range, autocannons are pretty much useless. I've tested them out in many different scenarios, and unless you can get really, really close to your enemy, they're pointless. They're a waste of time having them. The only different, the nanite autocannons, late game, if you can get them, they're brilliant. We've got plasma, kinetic. We're using picket computers, so hopefully we can get some extra hits in there, extra fire rate with the tracking, and 10% fire rate. We're doing more armor than shields. I'm doing that on both fleets because that tended to be the builds people are using, more armor rather than shields. And I think that's to do with because we've got obviously more weapons which penetrate shields in this combat rebalance. So armor is more useful, and we're going with auxiliary fire control because that's what I saw them using. This is a bit of the old style meta, auxiliary fire control, mix of shield weapons, armor weapons to try and kill your enemy fleet quite quick. So this is what was getting used against this fleet. So let's see how this goes. What do we only get? Just to quickly have to fix something, I've noticed I only had 18 ships there before, so now it's 20. That's 20 on 20, very similar fleet powers. Let's see how this goes. This is our missile fleet up here, unchanged. I didn't even bother to repair it. I think it's got 1% less armor, so we'll see how this goes. As you can see, same thing. Cruisers are running away. These ships are struggling to get in range. They're getting a few shots off now. You can already see the disparity in the fleet power. They're just losing so much. Look at the damage. Swarmer missiles, quantum missiles, and you can see the little damage that the other weapons are getting because they just can't get into range. They're still fighting through the shields and armor at this point. Look at the damage the swarmer missiles are doing. Obviously they go through the shields. So the only thing there is plasmas. Plasmas are doing okay. But the battle's effectively over at this point anyway. We've utterly crushed them. Okay, let's look at the losses there. So they lost 8 cruisers. Once again, we've lost nothing. Okay, so, and that's a full-on offensive fleet. One of the builds we saw in the game, the tournament, and there was different variations of this, and it just did not matter. You could see it in the tournament, although they didn't really focus on Life, Silas, and R's battles so much. In the early part, Comrade Truck, he was talking about it a lot, and they do talk about the end of the video. Now, this type of ship design, where is it? Where's the missiles? There we go. This type of ship design is very effective, probably up to that year 60, 70 point. Because then you're going to start having longer range weapons come into play, such as your proton launchers, perhaps neutron launchers. You might start having battleships with XL weapons. And the only difference is once you start having battleships appear with XL weapons, and the reason why you focus on a bit of torpedo tech as well is because you're going to then do a 50-50 split in your fleet with your missile cruisers that we've just used, and you're going to use the torpedo cruisers that we've used previously. You can either use the neutron launchers to stay at range and also kite the enemy fleet, the enemy battleships, or you can have one which a Devastator cruiser fleet, which is going to charge in, and Devastator torpedo fleet, which will charge you in and do that. But they may take more losses against the battleships. But let's do a quick test and see. And this is how you would modify the fleet for the later game if you've reached that point. Because most PvP games struggle to reach that point, and with this type of missile cruiser design, as far as I can see, it's unbeatable. I can't see how you can beat it with early or mid-game tech. PD doesn't work. You're going to struggle to find designs which can beat this. We can try a mix of corvettes like fast corvettes with disruptors. Disruptors have been very effective as well, which we saw, and we've used in a number of videos as well. I love disruptors. Anyway, let's have a quick look at some a later game build of this, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, for this fight, we've got our mix of missile cruisers for the late game. Just need to put the leader on, actually. Range, and we should probably put a range leader on this one too. There we go. Let's put a range leader on this. Okay, so missile cruisers, just with all the late game tech. Artillery, same mix of missiles, just all the tech has gone to the level 5, not using any exotic weapons. Our torpedo cruisers, using the energy torpedoes, neutron launchers with missiles, artillery computers, same with the afterburners. Had to only use 2 shields here due to energy restrictions. Versus typical battleship fleet, tachyon lands, kinetic artillery, mix of shields and armor, and the fire control computers, artillery computers. Now just check the edicts, turn that on. Okay, I think that should be fine. So we'll see how this fleet goes against this. So if you come up against battleships, straight away you just use fleets with torpedoes in them to deal with the battleships. This should be a good counter for someone who's decided to, right, I'm going to come up with your battleships because you're using missile cruisers. You can see the extra large weapons there firing, the kinetic batteries are firing. So we are losing some cruisers. There we go, proton launchers are firing. Taking a lot of losses, both sides. Fleet power is pretty comparable. There we go. So the fleet losses, we did lose a lot of cruisers actually in this battle. And only 7 battleships, so you could actually say probably the battleship fleet came out on top in that battle. But I think that's because we've got energy cruisers. Let's try it with Devastator cruisers, but the missile cruisers still won. And this is against extra large weapons, artillery. Okay, so for this fight, the only thing I've changed is we've changed the torpedoes to Devastator torpedoes. And we've got the torpedo combat computer on. Still got the fast cruisers. They're going to charge in and they're going to do a lot of damage to those cruisers, those battleships. And the battleships is the same type, which has been a pretty powerful build previously. Pretty standard type of build, the old meta really. Let's see how this goes. You can see that the battleships do a lot of opening damage. They're extra slot weapons. Cruisers are charging in, and torpedoes are away, and they're just obliterating them. I definitely do use the Devastator torpedoes rather than energy versus battleships. I think that's just the remnants of the fleet that we already obliterated. There we go. So they lost 9 battleships in that battle, and we've lost 10, 13 cruisers in that battle. So you can see how effective the combination of using missile cruisers and torpedo cruisers in the late game is. In that early game to mid game, missile cruisers utterly devastating. I don't think you can beat them. And it's also situational. Like if you see your enemy is building lots of corvettes to try and counter you, because disruptors are very effective, and I'll do another video on that, on disruptors. I wanted to focus on missiles today. Might be coming in with like a whole heap of disruptor corvettes, so you'd probably include a mix of your own corvettes to counter them. So it's all very situational, but the missile cruiser is utterly devastating. We've seen that in the tournament. We've seen the kiting in previous videos I've done, and this is a big thanks to Lypheus, because he's the one that really perfected this build, and Universal also contributed, providing a lot of information to this, and we're having a good chat about this yesterday on my Discord channel. I'll leave that video here because I'm not going to explore every possible fleet combination, because we have explored a lot, and there are some possible counters in the late game with various builds, but it's so late in the game that using the missile cruisers, you've already dominated the galaxy at that point. It's game over. You've conquered your enemies. You've beat your fellow multiplayer people in PvP, because nothing else counters this early mid game. And then think of all the technology bonus you get by not focusing on kinetic, plasmas and lasers and all that type of stuff. You can put that instead to economy techs or extra shields, armor, combat computers, all that type of stuff. So that's where you can get an even bigger advantage. It starts to snowball. Your fleets become stronger defensively as well as offensively. Alright, so I'm going to leave that video here for today. If you like this ship build and you like this video, hit that like button for me, subscribe to my channel, join the Discord channel if you want to have a good chat. I have good chats lately about builds, different things. Alright, thanks for watching. See you next time.